right. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Arkio live stream event. We're happy to have everyone here. We're going to be hanging out for a couple minutes to let everyone navigate their way here. So while you're hanging out, if you're just jumping into the live stream, please let us know where you're coming from. You can tell us where you're tuning in. And yeah, if you have any experience using Arkio or you're having a great day, we'd love to hear that too. And yeah, we'll be ready to kick it off in a couple minutes. So yeah, hang tight. Looking good. 26 people. And if you guys have any questions or comments, please use the comment section. We'll be watching it and participating with you as we go. So I am coming in from Mexico. Where are you guys coming in from? Romania.
Romania, nice.
Yeah.
Norway.
All right. And what about you, Johan? Where are you tuning in from?
I'm tuning in from Rotterdam, the second city in the Netherlands.
Nice. Is it the best city though?
That's discussable, with depending on who you ask.
Perfect. All right. And Hilmar, where are you coming in from?
From Iceland, from a suburb of Reykjavik called Garðabær. Try to pronounce that, David. Garðabær.
I won't. I will mute. I will mute myself before I do that. And Justin, where are you coming in from?
New York City. Let's do it.
Yeah. I can pronounce that one. I'll tell you that.
We'll play. We'll play.
Nice. And yeah, well, somewhat Boston for me, but I'm actually tuning in from Mexico today in Monterrey. So happy to represent. So great to see all these great people. We have some Boston people, some New York City, Poland, Seattle. Wow, worldwide crew. All right, and I see a few people, familiar faces. This is excellent. All right, I think we're at the 2-minute mark, so we're gonna get ahead and get started, people. So welcome, and for the people joining right now, my name is David. This is the Arkio live stream event, and we're basically going to be showcasing some exciting new features with the release of 1.6. If you have any questions or comments, please use the comment section to let us know what you're thinking, let us know where you're coming in from. If you've used Arkio before, we'll be participating in the chat and reaching out with you. So, but let's get started. So I'm going to kick this off. So let's have some fun. All right, people. So here we are. This is Arkio Live. Here we go. So the reason we've set this event up today is to showcase, well, we've released 1.6. It's been a long journey, and there's a lot of amazing features within this that we really want to highlight and tell a bit of the story behind it. And we're also using this event to touch base with our community. It's been a bit, but we've also seen a lot of amazing work being created by all of you, and we want to welcome both the new and the old. So we're excited to touch base with everyone and build a bigger conversation here. So yeah, and so for today's event, we're going to go through a few things. So we'll kick off a little bit with talking about the state of Arkio, looking through some of the new updates, doing, of course, the live demo with all tech presentations, and looking at some of our use cases. Then we'll wrap up with some community news and announcements there. So please make sure to stay till then. And if you have any questions, we'll be answering that towards the end. So, and without further ado, I'm going to pass the mic over to Hilmar, the CEO of Arkio, to kick us off. So, all right, let's get you up there, Hilmar.
Thanks, David. So great to be here with all of you today. At Arkio, our mission really is to create the spatial design tool of tomorrow. We want to empower people to design, collaborate, and connect across realities. Now, the inspiration for Arkio originally was architectural scale models, physical scale models that we love to create, but take a lot of time, effort, and money to create. So, way back then, we thought, what if you could actually design models like this in a matter of hours instead of days, weeks, or months? And they could still feel as real as physical scale models. What if you could jump into them and walk around with other people from wherever in the world? And you could modify them from the inside. That would be a pretty magical experience. So it's been an interesting journey. We have gone through, many kind of ups and downs in developing the technology, because what we are creating is pretty complex to create a modeling tool from the ground up for VR, AR, that's collaborative, that's supposed to work on mobile devices. It's no small task. This is an interesting example from some of our early days when we come starting to do some modeling in Arkio. In those early days, when we try to create something, it more often than not turned into some interesting piece of sculpture instead of a building. But we've come a long way since then, and we continue to iterate kind of on the overall user experience for Arkio. And I also wanted to share with you, just for the fun of it, some of the early prototypes we did of the Arkio UX. We probably did about 30 or 40 prototypes to really figure out how, it should work to design, architecture in human scale, standing inside a building, where you can literally just kind of lift the ceiling by kind of raising your hand. But none of this would be possible, what you're doing today, without kind of great VR headsets. This is actually one of the first VR experiences that I had, 30 years ago probably. And thankfully, the headsets we have today are very different than what I experienced, way back then. And this year, actually seen the kind of the announcement and launch of two major new devices, with the Apple Vision Pro, which will hit the market sometime next year. It'll be a groundbreaking device when it does. And with the Meta Quest 3, an amazing device, basically a $500 spatial computing device. And I have to say, we are just totally in love with it. During this live stream, we'll be showing you some examples of what you can do with Arkio on the Meta Quest 3, working in full color mixed reality, like never before. So when we think about Arkio, we really think about how we can simplify architectural design and review. With Arkio, you can sketch designs with other people. You can review designs at true human scale, whether you create those designs in Arkio or you bring them in from tools like Revit, Rhino, or SketchUp. You can blend realities with amazing mixed reality capabilities, and Arkio integrates seamlessly into your existing workflows, into your existing design tools. And of course, you can collaborate with other people wherever they are on a number of devices, including tablets, phones, desktops, PCs, and Macs. So it's really this combination of these core capabilities that makes Arkio really, really unique. And for us, this year has been a lot about optimizing workflows. And Joni will share with you some of those details, what we've been doing to do exactly that. Now, none of this would be possible without a great team. And I'm happy to say that the Arkio team continues to expand. We've added a number of developers this year. And with us today here are two of our newest members, Justin and David. And we want to take the opportunity to introduce them to the community. So Justin, you want to go ahead?
Sure, absolutely. So thank you. Yes, I'm Arkio's customer success lead. A little bit about me. I've practiced architecture for nearly 10 years, from residential to commercial design. The next 10 years have been predominantly at Perkins & Will, focused on implementing transformative technologies in practice. As a customer success lead at Arkio, my aim is to engage in real conversations. I'm interested in challenges that you face during the design process and how Arkio could improve both efficiency and creativity. So heck yeah, I'm here to partner and prove Arkio's worth in practice. So as I mentioned earlier, I'm based in New York City. I like to think that I can be anywhere nationally in a reasonable amount of time. So please, if you need me, ask for me and I'll be there. So yeah, thank you.
Great to have you on board, Justin. So David, over to you.
All right. Hi, everyone. Again, my name is David Morgan. I also have a background in architecture. I recently just joined the Arkio team. I've always been very interested in the digital and physical fabrication pieces and how they both start to merge together. And I've used a lot of my time after graduating from architecture school to be investigating the digital world at Sasaki. So I'm really interested to kind of keep pushing the different content and community pieces that we're going to be building here in Arkio. So excited to see what we make.
Great to have you with us, David.
So
next up, we're going to dive into some of the 1.6 updates. So this release is a massive release, and in many ways we could have labeled this Arkio 2.0. But there are a few things we want to kind of polish and add before we kind of slap the 2.0 label on Arkio. But here to tell you all of the details is Johan. Over to you, Johan.
Thanks, Omar. So yeah, 1.6 has been a big release for us. We been adding a lot of features like under the hood, but like the majority of the features we'd like to discuss also in more depth is collocation, boundarylessness, and let me just go back, large model support, review panel, and the plugins and import updates that we did. Now, the first one is the collocated mixed reality, and this is an important one for us because when you're in mixed reality, you can engage a lot more with the people around you, but also the context. So it enhances Arkio in so many ways. I'd like to just show you this little video and just talk a bit over. So when you're in collocated mixed reality, you're together with several meta headsets in the same space. When you jump inside that model, it will bring the people that are around you to that same position. And when you're going back to the large scale, it will put the model back into the position where you locked it. You can lock that model on a position anywhere you want by using the wristband and using the lock tool. And this will gather all the people that are collocated to you. If you're in a human scale, you can turn passthrough on and off, and you can also lock yourself into place. And this will, as a host, distribute all the people around you to where they are. When you then jump back to the large scale, this would put all your like nearby people back into their original position, so you can work on that model like being a maquette. At any time you can jump outside of that lock. You can basically teleport out of it or use the grips to get out of that lock position. But you can just restore it again by either jumping down in an already previously saved lock or locking your wristband again to get back to the lock position for everyone in the team. Now, there's a lot of things that you can do with collocation. You can do, of course, something in human scale, but we're going to talk a bit about that as well. So another thing we're really excited about is the boundaryless mode. And this is a big one because I think when showing the video, we all got to this point where you're using mixed reality and then the boundary shows up and you go through the boundary and then the app closes down. Like this has been an experience that we never really liked, and we're happy to announce that Arkio is now a mixed reality first application and we don't longer need the boundary. Whenever you're walking around in VR in Arkio, we now blend the reality into your virtual feed to make you prevent from walking into an object or like still see where you're going, and not longer requiring the setup of a boundary. When you put on the device, it's directly ready to go into Arkio and in mixed reality. And also when walking around, blending these realities, it can actually help to align these virtual objects that you put inside of your space using mixed reality. For the rest, like this is enhancing the experience of Arkio overall, because you don't need to set up your devices any further. So another thing we're really excited about is loading large models, and this has been like something that we've seen from our users as well. Like Arkio is most favorably used on mobile devices like the Quest 2 or 3 that simply cannot handle that much geometry. And as we know from our architecture industry, we have pretty large models, so that's a big problem to overcome. And one of those major features we've been adding to 1.6 is the support of those large models. So we now have the plugins to bring your files into Arkio, and when you get a bit closer to those models, you will actually see them decimate and get more geometry. This depends on the device that you're using Arkio on. We'll basically use the maximum capacity what the device can handle. We render more triangles, and you can see over here there we have like how much triangles are currently loaded in the scene and how much triangles are currently visible. So you can load a lot more geometry in the scene, and based on your device and your view settings, you see that like the polygons available for your device. When you're jumping back between skills or jumping inside of the model, we just update this live, and it's good to note that all of your models that you load to Arkio are rendered on the device itself. So you can even use this offline in environments without a good internet connection. You can literally use the boundaryless mode and the collocation to go out in the street, put your model on top of the real model, and then use some of those features in Arkio. Another feature that's been something that we've seen people use a lot more, like we've seen Arkio not only being used for design, but also reviewing existing models from other design tools. And for this, we added the reviewing panel, which combines a couple of the previous features we have and includes some of the new functionality of reviewing. So in this reviewing panel, you have access to your saved views. You can just jump between the saved views like you've been used before. These can be exported to Revit, and you can gather people around you in meetings. The BIM data is living on this panel as under a new tab, so you can inspect objects and see what parameters are in there. And the new view settings panel shows how many polygons, objects, things are loaded in the scene. If the shadows are turned on and off, your views and other settings are set. If you combine this with some of the collocation, boundaryless modes, and basically allowing you to load these large models in the site, there's a lot of interesting use cases you can do. You can use Arkio's geometry engine, the passthrough cubes to align real and virtual objects, just blend these between them by using a cube like this. Or you can use a new feature that we've added, the X-ray mode. The X-ray mode basically makes all the geometry that is in your Arkio scene transparent. So you can use that to slide if you want something to be more transparent or less transparent to see how that looks in your real world. And last but not least, we've also added a lot of other improvements and like small changes to Arkio and bigger changes. Some of them showing in these videos. So we added new tutorial videos that make it easier to get started and to get familiar with the tools in Arkio and mixed reality and various skills. There's a little info card you can find on these scenes to teach you about some of the basic and more advanced features of modeling in Arkio. So if you haven't checked that out yet, please have a look because there's very interesting stuff in there. The grouping mode got a new special mode on the main menu in Arkio. We've added new colors and props to the Arkio library, and we're planning to add a lot more in the coming months. And we did a major update on our cloud portal and our plugins that are up to 10 to 20 times faster to load large models into Arkio. This was also to support, now we support these large models, we also make it easier and faster to get these models to Arkio. Interesting to know is that these improvements to the cloud, they also make it easier for getting your models into the Quest and not having to set up a meeting. You can update the Revit model and it will directly update on the Quest and you get your latest file from there. We also added support for Revit 2024 and SketchUp 2023, and we've added a manual file browser on the PC and iOS and Android version of Arkio, so you can also load your individual files to Arkio. So yeah, that was a quick overview of like the main features of 1.6. We'll later also do a bit of a demo to show that a bit in more depth. But we also like to talk a bit about use cases of Arkio. And we've done an interesting, like we had a couple of interesting things going this year, including visits to some of our Arkio users in the US. And this was very inspiring to us to also talk to some of our users and see where they are at, but also to get a look into the kitchen of how they've been using Arkio in the field, sometimes in meeting rooms, and just hear also what our users are thinking about some of the features that we've added in 1.6 and are planning for future updates. And this is a dialogue that we like to keep going. And David is going to show you a bit more about some of those use cases that we have on our website.
All right, thanks, Johan. All right, let's get myself in here. All right, so I'm excited to talk a bit about this because these are some excellent use cases that help inspire me and many others to think about how they can leverage Arkio. So the first one that I would really like to point out here is from Norconsult. They've been an excellent use case to first, kick this off. And they are a Norwegian engineering and architecture firm that is multidisciplinary. And when they started using Arkio, they were using it in this way that was just for design review. And you can see in this picture here, they're using multiple devices. They're looking at an MEP model. So, they're collaborating and just reviewing and connecting and just utilizing VR for that ability for understanding like composition in space. What was nice after they really picked up using this tool is that they really dove right into some of the interactions. It was kind of their first dip into what's possible past just looking at things. And it was interesting to see the challenges that it faced too, because they're using a lot of models, and anyone in the AEC space, when they have whenever we link that MEP model, we know how scary and large these things can be. So when we are trying to make sure that we're helping them give an interaction to these type of models, it's kind of a high bar to set. And there's an interesting practical use case that came from this MEP model and integrating it into the Arkio app that I'm going to share right now. Let's see. Here we go. So one thing that just kind of stood out at first was that they were bringing this MEP model into a existing building that's their office, and they were having these sound issues that were just kind of replicating a lot of just a lot of sound, and they were trying to figure out where it was coming from. And by putting the headset on and walking around in the space and moving towards the sound, they were able to use the pass-through textures to look past what was actually rendered in the headset, so the physical location, and see what was revealed in the digital model. It's kind of like a way of integrating your digital twin content in a very practical way. And this to me is very exciting because it shows like a use case that really wasn't expected, at least for me. And it also shows like a very effective way of like utilizing your digital content and making sure that it's actually up to detail of what you've been building. So I've really enjoyed this like practical like integration of physical and digital. All right, so let's jump over to the second one. Right. And then, so the second use case that we want to highlight is from Rise Architecture. They're a New Jersey-based architecture firm that builds mostly around residential and commercial-based buildings. But when they approached us, we were collaborating with them on this idea of like, how do you start to integrate your Revit models in the same kind of a similar way as Norconsult? But I think they really kind of captured this similar dream that we've all, and imagine a lot of AEC people have had, where you do the site visit, you put the headset on, and you walk around the space. So let's pull that up. Where'd it go? Oh, it says. So in here, they went on site and they brought their headset, and they had already set up their model in Arkio. But when they're here, they're going on here and doing basically checking and make sure all their things line up. And when they're going through a space that's not, it's basically a retrofit, and they're going through a lot of this area, there's these moments that kind of stand out when you move past that boundary and you start to see that fade of the physical space and the virtual space. And that was actually one of the pieces that made us start to kind of consider, well, why do we need this boundary here? And that's actually what helps us identify as like the first and only mixed reality app right now. Or not mixed reality app, maybe first mixed reality first app, but and it's I think what's kind of key too to see in these examples is like there's so many moments when you're blending both the virtual and the physical when they start to kind of look very similar together. And I think that's the important piece there of understanding what's past the window and what that user can see, because typically it's some empty skybox that we're not really sure. So and so these are these two use cases that really have been like a big help towards the 1.6 launch. And we want to welcome more people to continue to like approach us for these type of ideas, because it helps us kind of build this app in the long run. So all right, let's go back to the slides. All right, so live demo time. Let's go, Johan.
Yes, let's do it. So we have some interesting things to show. Like some of them are we briefly touched upon, but the best way to show this is actually doing this live. And so bear with me and see if everything goes okay. So here we are. So I wanted to first maybe briefly chat a bit about the headsets themselves, because they have been, like Hilmar mentioned, there have been some major improvements here. And like especially if you compare the form factor of the Quest 3 to what it used to be on the Quest 2, then you see there's a big improvement in size, but most importantly, the comfort and the lenses. Like these lenses, the pancake lenses, they are a lot more comfortable to look through. They have like a much bigger sweet spot, and the resolution is just a lot bigger. So it's just much more comfortable experience than all of the VR headsets that we had before. There's technology in here that makes it also very good for mixed reality, like to do high resolution cameras in there. It makes the headset almost perfect for us to use in mixed reality. The things that we'd like to show here for today's demo is the like how to get that Revit model into the headset, and how to then work with those devices. So typically we have already the Arkio Cloud environment. You can just give that environment a name. Let's just call this one, I'm going to make a new group called Live. This gives me invite code that I can connect to my Revit plugins. And by the way, these cloud groups can be made new whenever there's like you want to make a new group. You can just leave the group and make a new one, because these are only to transfer your files to the different devices. They're basically exposable, because after 7 days your files will be non-available anymore for sharing. So this one I connect to my Revit plugin. This now makes me connected to this Live Arkio Cloud group, and from this moment on, I'm able to upload my file to the Arkio Cloud. Now I have this larger file that I already uploaded, so we don't need to go to that. But there's also a smaller fragment over here of the same model that I want to look into in a bit more depth. And you see tools like Revit, they are struggling sometimes already with models of around this size with MAP and other things loaded. And if you load that to Arkio, you get a little slider that you can use to control the level of detail. Now in this case, I want to inspect this detail in the maximum detail, this apartment. So I'm just putting my slider all the way up. If you're loading a full model, you can also just leave it on medium or low, depending on your size. It will export more or less geometry. Now this plugin prepares the files for Arkio, gathers all the textures, uploads it to the cloud, and next time you open the headset or a device linked to the group, the model should be there. The VR or the Oculus headset, here we are. So let's just make this one big. And I'm going to position myself here. So right here, I have the model loaded already. So this is let's just inspect it a bit. This model in total, we have here 3.3 million polygons loaded in the scene. And when I get a bit closer to the tower, you see the number of polygons is increasing. And if I jump in the tower, let's just put this one over here, and I just teleport myself a bit more closer to here, I have about 1.1 million polygons visible in the scene and 3.3 totally loaded. If I go back up to the large scale and jump inside here on the street level, I'm also getting more polygons, and this is basically we're just sitting on what the device can handle, still comfortably with comfortable frame rate. Another thing we added is the ability to teleport through vertical surfaces. So especially if you load models with doors and windows and a lot of stuff, you often don't want to worry about those not being able to teleport through those. So now you can do that in Arkio. And when you do that, you directly land on the vertical surface. Now, if I scroll a bit out here and jump into the apartment over here, right? In this apartment, we see this is a lot of geometry. We have like around 1.2 million polygons visible currently. And I'm able to use the X-ray mode to see the actual geometry we're actually all having loaded in here. So this shows pretty well the size, the sheer size of the model that we have loaded here. And with the slider, of course, I can put it less and higher, and I can just put it back to normal mode. It's good to mention that if you're putting things like shadow or X-ray, that like what your device can handle is lowering a bit. So basically, if you switch some of these rendering modes, we will like update that for you so that the device can see like all the geometry available without losing performance. Now let's go to the other scene that I have loaded over here. So this is a smaller model. Let me just position myself. Hopefully you guys can see me and hear me correctly. So this model was loaded from the input panel. So I have them actually here. This is the Revit, like the large Revit model that we loaded. And this is the smaller apartment. It just got placed like this and put a bit higher. In that model, if I look a bit closer, I see there's a dot. That dot is me. I just saved my position already. I'm going to jump or to that model's position with my teleport tool. And when I start walking around now, you would see the boundaryless mode kicking into action. So I'm now, like when I'm stopping, I see VR. When I'm walking around, I'm seeing the reality. And I can use this in my advantage because my apartment is not that big. I can just walk to my kitchen over here to see this part of the living room. And I hope you guys can still hear me. Like I will just talk a bit louder. But from here, when I keep walking, I can use that pass-through mode also in my advantage by just blending in the reality and making some pass-through geometry on top of my real world. So now in my Revit apartment, there's a pass-through wall that I modeled here. And if I walk through that pass-through wall and I'll stand still here, I will see the VR environment with my pass-through wall that I brought in. And I want to extend also a ceiling into my environment. Just going to stretch it a bit like this and a bit more like this. So when I stand still now, I will see my ceiling and this wall in pass-through and my Revit model in virtual reality. If I cut some extra holes in this model, I can see a bit better what's going on. Like I have here, I see behind my wall, not my kitchen, but the virtual model again. And if I cut here the hole in the roof, instead of my ceiling, I'm seeing a hole with the structure and the ducts. If I add some extra geometry in here, so maybe I wanted to just show how it looks like when I add some extra duct here, I could just use Arkio's modeling tools there. So I have a little kitchen that is modeled over here. Let's just walk through it. Wait a bit. So we currently I see actually there's some pipe sticking out here, and this is a good example of a BIM clash or an issue that we need to resolve. And I'm going to put like I'm first going to inspect this one. So there's like our BIM tool that we can use to highlight the data. I see it's a copper object, and it has all the properties of the air. So I actually know this is a water duct, and I'm going to put a sticky note on here to just say remove. And I'll look at that one later. Now there's some other things I can do here. There's like the door to the bathroom. I'm actually going to open my real door, and I'm going to walk through my real door. There's my dog. Hello. I'm going to walk into this bathroom. I hope you guys can see this. So there's we see a toilet over here, a shower, and a washing machine. While I'm actually standing in my corridor of my apartment. So this is pretty fun. Like I'm able to use that boundaryless mode to have a look into my bedroom and see how everything is going to look like. So I'm going to be walking back through my actual living room and see where you guys are all at. And let's see if we're all still in the meeting. Yeah. So yeah, that was like a really quick overview of some of these new features all in Arkio. And yeah, I'd love to also hear what you guys think about them. If you have any like first thoughts about that and questions we can answer for that. But let's just go back through the slides. And I'm going to hand it over to David.
Hey, everyone. Oh, muted myself. Hi, everyone. Thanks, Johan. That was excellent. Don't forget to wash your hands, buddy.
Yes.
And also, what's your dog's name?
Yaku.
Yaku?
He was also part of the show, apparently.
I know this. He didn't look as impressed as I feel.
Yeah,
like
he sees me walking around with the VR headset all the time. So
cut it.
Yeah.
So, alrighty. So let's jump into this though. All right, people. So we got some fun updates to share, and I'm really excited to talk about this part because this is it's been my bread and butter for a bit. So one of the things that I've been able to do for the last couple of years is showcasing Arkio as a design tool in a architectural workshop based setting. So for the last couple of years, I've had over about 50 students go through a series of projects as a way to do a design. A typical design project. It's less focused on the outcome of the design, but more focused on how does VR impact the design workflow. So we're going to show a couple of examples because it's just been a very eye-opening element. So this starts back, it starts back a few years ago, and it was nice as soon as the avatars kicked in because all of my students had always been remote, and they had these excellent moments of trying to just collaborate with each other and working on a single model together in Arkio and building out these projects. So these projects had a lot of different moments for teams to be building together, building separately, presenting, and thinking about the social side of what all these pieces are. And they've led to also some fantastic discoveries, like what's the point of a design review anymore if your typical way of doing it is pointing at a picture and hopefully people are following your hand and understanding what you're thinking about. Rather now with VR, you're kind of giving someone a real tour. And I've seen a lot of students start to really sit back and understand their design a lot better by just experiencing how people go through their space, just like how we would with any other tour, right? And I have to say, all of my students, I see a few you here, you've all been like so impressive to me. And I've just been really happy that, some of you have got motion sickness from, putting VR headsets on for your first time, but you battled all the way through. And I think one thing that I've really been able to kind of absorb from this is just how does this actually become a beneficial way for us to help educate everyone on the subject of modeling in VR. So one thing that we're excited to do is start to bring some of this content into Arkio community. So let's go back over here. And so part of what I've been doing has been a little kind of pushed off to the side of Arkio, but now we're going to be integrating it into Arkio itself. And so we're going to be bringing some of the competitions, the community challenges, and everything that we've been doing within the Boston Architectural College and kind of expanding it out. And one of the exciting pieces is that Arkio also has a lot of other universities that are interested in it, over about 100, probably over 100 or so. And you can tell that a lot of academic settings are very interested in these pieces. So we're starting to unite the community, bring all these pieces together and make sure that you're able to, have the best user resources available. So I definitely, let me move my little face up here. I recommend that everyone come and join the Arkio community within Discord or utilize our Arkio support page on the web in order to understand the different places for workflows and guides. And if you're able to join the Arkio community, you'll be able to jump aboard and help participate in some of the future competitions that are going to be soon announced. So a lot of really exciting pieces there. And it's been a really great time. So I'm excited. And as you can tell, I'm just smiling so much. So. And that's everything on the community side. So stay tuned. Definitely come and join the Discord space. We'll drop that link into the chat, and we can continue a bit of this conversation there. But let's move on over to the Q&A section. So I'm going to bring Hilmar and Johan back. So let's do that. All right, guys. Hey.
Hey, guys.
Hey.
So, Johan, this is the first time you go to the bathroom in VR live,
Yes.
right?
It's a bit awkward. I hope I still have to wash my hands. I give it up.
I feel like also with these mixed reality things, you have to clean your apartment so well that just didn't. Yeah, it's so challenging. I admire that with the dog too. But let's dive into. Oops, sorry.
No, go ahead.
So let's dive into some of these questions that we have here. I see a few of them popping up, and I think there's already some good ones. So I'm going to send the first one over to Hilmar from Pablo. So Pablo asked, a bit about the part with the MEP visualization and what's the difference between Resolve and Arkio. So Hilmar, could you shine a little light on that?
Absolutely, great question. So Resolve is a great design review tool. They really did a fantastic job at bringing kind of big 3D models into VR. So kudos to them. Angel and the team have really done an amazing work at that. I would say, however, that fundamentally Arkio and Resolve are different, because with Arkio, we are combining the design aspect and the review aspect, and we believe that they really go hand in hand. When you are doing design, you want to be able to review those designs, add comments, get feedback from other people. When you're doing design reviews, you want to be able to brainstorm, sketch, try new ideas. So we really believe these kind of go hand in hand. And, we've now for a while been pushing kind of the boundaries of the size of models we can import. Now we're up to kind of 5 to 10 million triangles. People can try to load more at your own risk. And obviously, we'll continue to push those boundaries.
Fantastic. Appreciate that insight there. All right, let's jump to the next question. Let's see. I have this is the good one. So I'll pass this one over to Johan. Is it available?
Yes, it is. You can download it directly from the stores, like from iOS Store, Quest Store. We have it even on Steam. It's like with every version that we update, we always push them out to all the stores at the same time, and it's good to know that when there's a mail going out from a new version, you can just update it on all the various devices. If you have a Windows device, it shows an update notification when you start an older version of Arkio that there's a new version available, and you need to be on the latest version of Arkio in order to communicate with the other devices on 1.6. That's good to know then when you're doing this.
I think there's a good follow-up question here too. So you just install?
Yeah, just install. That's all you need. You don't need accounts. You can directly get started with Arkio. If you want to use some of the pro features, like bringing in a large Revit model, for example, you can start a 2-week free trial from the app. Just the only thing you need to do is just leave your email there. And if you have any questions regarding the trial, you can get in touch with any of us, and we're happy to help you there as well.
Awesome. That's excellent. Perfect. All right. And then we have, let's see, I believe there is one here from Ryan. So any plans to update Arkio's fidelity, lighting, shadows to take advantage of Quest 3's CPU and GPU specs? Now, that sounds like a very technical question. And yeah. I feel like, Johan, this is another one for you. Sorry, man.
Yes. No, I think it's a good one. So the interesting thing on the Quest 3's extra performance, it's next to the extra performance, they also have a bit more pixels to fill, and they have a much heavier camera to feed through when you're using like mixed reality. So it's something to be aware of. Like there's also depending on the settings that you use on the device, there's a bit of extra capabilities or not. But there's definitely some extra room for improvements. Like you can load larger models on a Quest 3 versus a Quest Pro or a 2. And there's also something that we can use there to make that to ramp up the visual fidelity a bit. So that's something we are planning. There's still limitations though, like when it comes to like a quality of rendering, like with ray tracing and stuff that will not be possible technically on the device. But we are definitely looking into improving that further in the coming months and years.
Yeah, I think, you know, something that we've as part of the assignments within the classes I've been teaching is, you know, trying to connect the difficult moments of showcasing a VR experience to the 2D elements. Because there's just, when you put the headset on, it's that classic, this makes so much more sense. And I think this is kind of like, you know, something that's always the challenge of like, how do you improve the fidelity and the rendering capabilities? So, all right, Hilmar, I got one for you coming in. So I got where'd it go? So I think Ro, a fantastic Arkio modeler, by the way. Could you explain a little bit more about large scale design in Arkio using Quest?
So, you know, the interesting thing with Arkio is you can design that kind of small scale to like a very large scale. You can be as detailed as you want or as abstract as you want, essentially. And the way we see this kind of playing out, and you're starting to see this a little bit kind of with the large model support we are adding now. You know, our ultimate goal with Arkio is you should be able to design not only kind of buildings or kind of a small piece of like an urban kind of area, but, you know, entire cities even. And the system you're seeing with the large model support, where we are in real time changing out kind of the level of detail of the models you bring in, you know, that will apply also to the geometry you create essentially, you know, in Arkio. So, you know, these are all kind of stepping stones on our kind of path to becoming a modeler you can use to model pretty much anything you want at any scale you want. So we have ambitious plans.
Yeah, that's a great answer. All right, I think we got another technical one that I'm going to bring up here. So we got a question around once you brought something in, can you scale it and rotate it?
Yep, for sure. Like so, there's actually a really good trailer on our main website that shows like most of the interactions that are possible in Arkio. So the best way to see geometry in Arkio, it's something that almost works like a physical model. So if I make myself really big, I can grab the object with my hand and move it, rotate it, position it, snap it any way I want in the model. If I want to do those operations from a distance, you can use the main menu that some are using, select move tool, for example, and then often like as a secondary option, you have like the joystick or like the buttons to do an alternative operation. So in holding something from a distance, you can use the thumbstick to rotate an object around this axis. But it's much easier to just make yourself a bit bigger and just rotate it, scale it, do it like in one single movement, because it feels like having a tactical physical model in your hand.
Excellent. Appreciate that insight. All right, we got one from an old colleague of mine. All right, Ken Gould is asking, any examples of drawing on someone drawing with pen and paper and modeling on top with mixed reality?
I currently we don't have any examples lying around, but it sounds like a pretty interesting use case now with mixed reality and the cameras being like really more precise. So it's like as long as you would have a surface in Arkio, like you saw me when I was modeling the wall and cutting through the wall, like if you have that like a surface of a mixed reality material, you can in Arkio model on top of that or sketch on top of that with Arkio's modeling tools. So that would be then the starting point. You just basically put your sketch on a desk, put your desk in mixed reality with the material and then start modeling on top of that desk.
Yeah. I feel like these are where, kind of like Hilmar, what you were mentioning in the previous part of your beginning part of the presentation with like the models and the different content that we rely on to understand how space comes together. It's going to be great when we really start to like see how people discover that overlay and really start to kind of find their practical use case, just like how the NordConsult team did. So, yeah. All right. Let's see. We can keep on chugging along here. I got one from, we got another question from Pablo. Will Arkio ever have an option at user cost, I imagine, for live cloud rendering? So I'm guessing it's like Cloud XR from NVIDIA and whatnot.
That's an interesting one. I think like we're very interested and open to have discussions on that with our users, like seeing also what's their current favorite solutions and like what would be the ideal scenario for them to do cloud rendering. Because we understand also the market is quite saturated when it comes to high fidelity rendering. Like you have like the real-time rendering, you have cloud environments where you can render in, and we'd like to know also what is most important there. Like, is the ability to do this collaborative important? Is the ability to like make it look as realistic as possible with the sensuous lighting and reflections? Like we'd like to know there what would be the ideal scenario for our users.
Yeah, that's interesting. That's like a great question and both a great response, because I think a lot of times we relate to the VR with the powerful like visualizations that came from Enscape, but I think there's that it just becomes static after that, and I think that's where it's nice to see how like the large model support and a lot of things that help us disconnect from the computer and match up with how the current development of all the headsets are going really kind of creates a new way. So all right, I got another question here that I like this one. So love to see the data coming into Arkio from Speckle. Any plans?
It's been long on our roadmap. Like it keeps floating around, and then there's always some other priorities coming up. But we are like also here. Like we'd love to work with our users that are already Speckle users and Arkio users, find use cases and give you guys access to early prototypes and make sure that we can make this into an interesting, successful work case. Because for us, this would be an option. Like we just need to pick our battles and the priorities in the features that we need to put first.
Definitely, and I think that's also something that will help us, with the user input moving forward. But I think this will give us a lot of information towards like how people want that connection and how do they update and stay synced, because it's so you never want to have that final please work file.
No. And our our vision in there is also we want to be as open as possible. Like we made our own plugins to make it easier to bring things in and out of Arkio. But like for example, the plugins can also be used to get stuff from like SketchUp into Revit with direct materials. Like there's like the bidirectional thing that we put there was to make the process easier and to not break the original design process, but just enhance it with XR. And for us, open standards like Speckle, open workflows, and like, it's the future. So we're all ears. We'd love to talk more about that.
All right, that's perfect. Well, I got one for Hilmar here, and I've seen a few people echoing this question. So, any plans to make full building scale AR geolocated? So, Hilmar, what's your thoughts on that?
I think something like that would be super interesting. Like being able to kind of be outside in the real world and just kind of modify and mock up things on top of the real world is like nothing short of amazing. So yeah, I think we'd like to get there. Like you can do some type of geolocating and kind of shadow studies and so on already today in Arkio using kind of our kind of maps that we bring in from OpenStreetMaps. So absolutely, it's on the list.
Perfect. All right, let's see. I got we got a couple more that we can answer because we're running close to the hour. So this is great. All right, if I'm gonna pull this one up. So this is interesting because
hand tracking.
Yes.
I can take this one, David, because I have to admit, like we created this hand tracking experience in Arkio probably 2 or 3 years ago, or 2 years ago. And I have to admit, I'm a little bit ashamed of it, that I coded this myself more of as an experiment than anything else. And we haven't touched it now for 2 years. But it's something we put in there to get a feel for like what would it be to do actual design with just your hands. And we've been thinking a lot about this, obviously, with the Vision Pro coming up, which relies on hand tracking. We are taking a very active look at the hand tracking experience. And our goal really is to make Arkio as easy to use as possible. And one of the elements of that is to allow people to use whatever input they want when they're working in Arkio. If you want to basically use your controllers or your hands, or like one hand and one controller, like all that should be doable. It should be very easy to use. So it is one of our priorities as we kind of streamline the onboarding of new users and make Arkio a more capable kind of design tool for everybody, for sure.
That's perfect. Yeah, I always feel like when I'm like, I love the hand motion, and I think like I just feel like my hands go back to the controller, so default. But I think there's just that joy though when I forgot my controllers really far away, and just the hand tracking does work just to move throughout, and that's really special.
A good note here is that the depth sensor of the Quest 3 does make it a lot more, like a lot better than what, like if you tried the hand tracking on the Quest 2 or the Quest Pro, like this one does make it feel a lot more like stable, like when your hands, and also there's some updates that we did on the hand tracking SDKs, so the hands themselves, they are smoother than they were in like a year back. But we're still planning to do some updates and making the experience itself more hand native in a way.
Yeah, definitely. All right, so I think we got time for a couple more. Let's see, but I think there's a good let's see. All right, I think there was one that this one's a good answer here. So increase, I think that was something we mentioned, but Johan, do you want to touch on that?
So yeah, so we have plans to increase that. Mostly, we've been seeing also like a lot of people using Arkio for their own home renovations and like residential projects. So we have some ideas of expanding that with content packs. The content packs themselves will be an in-app purchase, but like all the subscriptions will have access to those. So if you have an Arkio subscription, you will always have all the available content. But we understand that like the subscription might be too much for some people, and they want to buy extra content for their own projects.
I feel like there's always like, can I get this color? Can I get this asset? I think it's good to get these requests.
Ultimate idea is to allow you to bring in your own textures and colors, and that's something we are working on as well. That will be one of the coming updates.
Perfect. All right. Well, I think we got time for one last question. I think there's an excellent one here for Hilmar. So, what's next?
Oh, that's a big one.
Yeah.
So without getting into too much detail, I would just say that the emphasis is to continue simplifying workflows, to make it easier to bring new users into Arkio, be it to design or to review or to do both. We want to really look at how we can streamline the overall experience. Because the fact of the matter is that people today, they don't even realize what's possible to do with a design tool like Arkio on a device like the Quest 3. And what we're doing now, and that's kind of also part of what David will be doing going forward, is just to help educate people. Hey, this is now available, it's possible, this is not science fiction. But as you start to bring more and more people into the experience, it has to be obviously as streamlined as possible. So taking a really hard look at the onboarding, bringing in designs, modeling the entire UX, as you kind of work towards kind of, the 2.0 of Arkio. That's essentially the main focus. There's so much technology already here, and in a way we need to step a little bit back and say, okay, how can we make this even easier to use than what it is today? Our goal really is that anybody should be able to put on a headset and get going with Arkio like within minutes. That's what we're striving towards.
Yeah, that's a fantastic goal for this here, because like you're saying, like we don't know the possibilities that we can achieve with these type of functionalities, and even just what I've been exploring with pass-through modeling, boundaryless stuff, and I feel like I've just scratched the surface of what's possible with what's out right now. So, it's that's a great answer, and I'm excited to kind of keep pushing on this stuff and help with this onboarding. So, all right, well, I think that hits us right at 2 o'clock, right at the hour. A little different time for me, but I don't know if there's any last words you guys want to say before we wrap up.
I think it's mainly just, we're really thankful everybody, showing up here. We love having this dialogue with the community. From the very beginning, we've been working on Arkio with active feedback from the design community, and we want to continue that. So, join us on Discord, post in the forums, send us emails, let us know what is good and bad. We can take it. We love to get your feedback.
Yeah, and just to echo that too, just please, I think the Discord channel is in there. It's Arkio HQ. You can find me on there, and all of our team is there too, and there's other great examples of work. But we can continue the conversation there, and stay tuned for future announcements and competitions. So
maybe we should still bring up that we're at Autodesk University next week. Maybe some of our users will be there as well. So because I see still some people in the chat, but we appreciate the community. Thanks everyone for joining in. If you're going to happen to be at Autodesk University next week, we'd love to see you at our booth. We have the new Quest 3s, we have Quest Pros, we have everything you can try, and we have something to set up there that you can try together with our guidance.
Perfect. Thank you. I forgot about that. That's exciting. It's so much good news coming up. So that's perfect. All right. Well, I've never closed a stream. I feel sad. I feel like we're shutting the door on 62 people.
Let's do it. Right. Thanks everybody.
All right, people.
It was
talk
great
to you soon.
seeing you all here. Bye-bye.
Bye-bye.